Good morning, folks. How's everybody doing? Guys, hear me okay? Let's see here. You can hear the guitar okay? Good morning, guys. And sleepyheads, I hope you guys are doing okay. Sunday again. How's your week been? Hopefully it's all good. Let me know what's been going on the last couple of days. I'm sure you guys have lots going on wherever you may be. But hopefully you guys reserve Sunday for a little gear and guitar fix, because that's what it's all about here on Sundays. So welcome, guys. I hope we have some new faces here today as well. We sometimes have new faces that pop in from time to time, and a lot of regulars. So it's always really nice to see you guys. I was eavesdropping on the pre-show chat, and I think there was a couple of interesting discussions or comments, and I'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to say welcome to everybody that's here. This is show 219, guys, and August is flying by. Before you know it, we're going to be knee-deep in fall, and I'm actually looking forward to it because I like fall. I find the summertime is always too hot or too muggy, and fall's nice. It's easier to sleep, and I like the change of foliage, and we usually get back on track, my band and I, because during the summertime, schedules are all over the place. People are on vacation, doing family things, and we tend to fall off the wagon. And then during fall, we kind of get back on track, and winter keeps us going. You know, being able to jam on a regular basis with some good friends really keeps you going, keeps the morale up during the dark days of winter, especially here in Canada. You guys that are in hotter climates, you don't know the struggle, but the struggle is real. It's real, man. So I'm playing this guitar today. It's the Harley Benton Fusion. It's a really nice guitar. I did a full review on this, and I think a lot of you guys actually may have picked up one of these along the way. They're fantastic guitars. I really like them. You know, I'm a big fan of the Sir guitars, but they're certainly not inexpensive. And when I saw this one, I had to try it out because it had all of the appointments that I like. You know, the wood binding all the way around. I like the burst, the modern burst. And this is right now only my one of two, actually three guitars that I have with a Floyd on them right now. But this is the only, you know, company production guitar that has a Floyd. The other guitars, the other two that I have, I built. So they're not exactly off, you know, the shelf at a store. But it's definitely a really nice guitar. I really like the sound of the pickups, and it stays in tune really well for a guitar with a Floyd. I don't usually bond that much with guitars with Floyds on them because they're so difficult to keep in tune. And I'm sure a lot of you that have tried guitars that have Floyd Rose bridges on them, you know what I mean. It's a lot of hassle, you know. But, I mean, the guitar sounds really nice. That's the bridge. My fingers are still sleepy, guys, so forgive me for the... And then even the neck position. It's got a nice sound to it, and it also has the split coil, but I'm not a big fan of split coil. Look how thin it sounds. when it's split compared to this. This is why I'm not a big fan of split coil systems. They just, you know, they become anemic. But anyways, long story short, guys, if you like this kind of guitar and you can't necessarily, or if you like Suhr guitars and you can't afford a Suhr guitar for whatever reason, you know, it's out of your budget, get one of these. They're great guitars. I really have a fun time playing them. Roasted neck too. Look at that. Really nice. Overall, no complaints about this guitar. I don't play it enough, unfortunately. I should play it more. All right, so let's say hi to the guys that are here today. First of all, thank you for tuning in. And I think Dan Gorman was the first one here today. I'm not really sure, but good morning, Dan. Hope you're doing good. Well, I can't say hope you're doing good. That's not proper English, right? Hope you're doing well this morning. Gene said he's all coffeed up. 7 a.m. So Gene had an issue, and he mentioned, and I saw this during the pre-show chat, that he was building a Telecaster. First of all, congratulations on the build, Gene. Telecasters are awesome. And the last neck bolt sheared off inside the body. That's always the worst, man. I hate when that happens. So he's not sure how he's getting it out, and he's freaking out a little bit. But Gene, I can talk you through it. I can give you a couple of suggestions for getting that out. Unfortunately, sometimes when you buy neck plates, unfortunately they throw in bolts that are not good. They're really cheap. And the first thing I do, if I have to buy a neck plate from China or something like that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw away those screws and end up replacing them with something a little more substantial. I like stainless steel screws. They're like really solid, better. So hopefully it's a learning experience. You could chalk one up to learning. But really what you're going to have to do, and it's a little bit of a pain, but at the end of the day, it's going to be hidden. You're not going to see it. What you can do is find yourself a small metal pipe, a thin metal pipe, just a little bit bigger than your screw, a little bit wider than your screw. You can get these at hardware stores, in the plumbing section, you know, brass ones. They sell all different types, but you need something that's just a little bit bigger than your screw. So in other words, if you take that little pipe and you take one of the screws that you have, just put it in and it should fit like perfectly inside. So you take one of those, you cut it about yay big. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to end up chucking this inside your drill, okay? But first what you're going to do is when you take the end that is going to be let's say the cutting end, let's say you chuck it in your drill, the part that's sticking out, just file in with a small thin file a couple of teeth, like just go all the way around. They don't have to be big teeth, just enough to cut into the wood. And I've done this with really small screws. I've had that experience when, you know, one of the screws broke off in you know, the string T here. You know, sometimes the small mini screws, they'll break. And it's happened to me before. So what you end up doing is once the teeth are filed in, chuck it into your drill and then just drill right over the screw. You're going to make a slightly bigger hole. It's not the end of the world. If it's a nice fit, you can actually pull out the screw and a little bit of the wood around the screw, and it'll come out nicely. And it's not a big deal. All you got to do is make the other holes slightly bigger, and you're still going to be good to go. Put in better quality screws, and then you're good to go. It's going to come out like beautifully. It's a trick that I learned way back, and it works really well. Try it out. Gene, let me know how it works. And like I said, first thing you do when you buy a neck plate, if it's made in China or if those screws don't look substantial, throw them away. Just go to a hardware store or order yourself some screws that are stainless steel, and it's going to work like a charm. I mean, and there's other ways you can get around it, but this is probably the simplest solution. All right, I hope it helps, man. All right, so hopefully we have Gene on the right track with that question today. Cushman is here. Mark is here. He says, "What's up, guys? What's up, Mark?" And Gene also says Squire Troublemaker Telecaster, $499. Firefly Troublemaker Telecaster, $179. And he's deciding which one to go with. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure one of those two speaks to you more, Gene. You know? Don't necessarily look at the price. Look at which guitar speaks to you. Price is irrelevant if you enjoy the instrument. If you end up getting the cheaper one for whatever reason, yeah, you save some money, but at the end of the day, are you going to end up selling it if you don't like it as much? Okay, who else is here today? So DMAC is here. He says, hope you stay dry and didn't flood with that big water main break. Like you said, infrastructure sure needs upgrades. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, that are not necessarily in the same geographical location, we had like crazy weather. I mentioned it last week. Last week we got like heavy duty rains. We ended up getting the equivalent of a full year's worth of rain in one day. And that caused havoc. A lot of people got flooded. Thank goodness I didn't get flooded. That would be terrible. And that always, to me, that's like a horror story. Anybody that has gear and guitars, and especially if you're keeping your gear in the basement, that's always a tricky scenario, guys. Man, keep your stuff off the ground as much as possible, because you never know. You know, a flood is all it takes, and then you're fishing your guitars out of the water, and that is like, nightmare scenario for me. But anyway, long story short, flooding, a lot of people had issues, and then just a couple of days ago, we had a huge water main break. Apparently, this water main was like, the tube was probably like 8 feet in diameter, close to downtown, and we basically had the equivalent of, you know, the Bellagio fountain in Las Vegas, that beautiful fountain. Well, we had sort of a natural version of that, because the water was spewing out, and it was basically like spewing out as high as a house, basically, and everything around there was flooded. All the commercial buildings that are in the area all had their parking lots, like the underground parking, completely flooded. Disaster. So anyway, long story short, it wasn't a pleasant time for a lot of people the last couple of days, and we're still getting rain today. We got rain yesterday, rain today. So that's, you know, I don't want this to turn into the weather channel, but you can see why I'm looking forward to fall. It is what it is. We got to deal with what Mother Nature gives us. All right. So guys, if you're new here today and you don't know the spiel, how it works, it's pretty simple. The channel is open on Sundays to everyone to chat. So we encourage people to jump in, to ask gear-related questions, talk about what they've been up to in terms of latest gear acquisition, what they're considering, what you're considering getting, perhaps guitar questions like Gene had, if you're stuck somewhere, anything goes. Mostly gear related, but sometimes we go off topic too, like we just did now. And if you're new, you have to subscribe to be able to chat today, so don't hesitate. Hit the subscribe button. It takes a minute, and then you're going to be free to jump in on the chat. Okay, we encourage that. Cushman says they also make left-handed bits for extractions. Just saying, I didn't suggest that, Cushman, because I've tried those in the past, and to me, it's hit and miss with those. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's not always easy. You can try that. I mean, nothing stops you from trying that first. And then if that doesn't work, you can use my tube trick. All right. Good. Wayne says he loves my weather updates. It's always amazing to me how weather people can be wrong 90% of the time and they don't lose their jobs. You know, most of the time they're wrong. Yeah, that's what they're called, the easy out bits. If you're looking for them, you can usually get them at your local, hardware store usually carries them. Sometimes they have different sizes. You put them in your drill bit. They usually have two sides to them, and then you reverse them out. You could try that. And Profile Productions is here. He says he got flooded when Hugo hit, lost all my gear. Yeah, that's not good, man. Ever since I try to keep my gear off the ground as much as possible, but unfortunately I can't always do that. As you can see, the little supports behind me here are off the ground a couple of inches. Not a lot, but enough just in case. But a lot of my other guitars are on racks, and they're, stainless steel racks that you can get at Costco. You can usually fit two guitars lying down per shelf. I usually keep the lower shelf loaded up with the cheapy guitars, and the more expensive guitars go higher up. So, worst comes to worst, you lose a couple of guitars that are inexpensive, but you don't want to lose the good ones. It's hard, man. It's hard. Danielle is here. He says, new gear, picked up the new Jimmy Rani PDF book from Chuck Shear Productions. Focuses melody and improvisation. Very cool, Danielle. There's a lot of free stuff online, by the way, that you can find when it comes to theory and stuff like that, But yeah, it's always good to have a good book. Thank you for the recommendation. Maybe if anybody else is looking for a book you can easily grab off of Amazon or something like that, you can check it out. Peter says, great Keith Urban interview on Rick Beato's channel. I saw the thumbnail. I didn't watch the video. I'm not a huge Keith Urban fan, but I like Rick's stuff. He asks interesting questions most of the time. So yeah, I might check it out. Ed's here. He says, hey Tony, I have a new MG30 wanting something new. What would you suggest? Man, there's so much stuff today. Of course, depends on your budget. Is money an object? Do you want to go cheap? Or do you want to go big? The MG30 is a nice little unit. I have one here too as well. And they work really, really, really well. I'm happy with that. The New X stuff is not bad. They have a lot of other versions that are a little bit more expensive or less expensive. The Ampero stuff is interesting too. Of course, you have the bigger units like what Boss puts out and all that kind of stuff. For me, I mean, if money is no object, I would say go with a fractal unit. They have the big units like the FM9, but they also have the FM3 and all kinds of stuff like that. Depends what you're trying to do. Is there any ultimate goal at the end of the day? Cheap, huh? Yeah, everybody wants cheap. Well, the good news is you can get a lot of this stuff for cheaper if you buy them used. What don't you like about your current unit, the MG30, Ed? What are you looking for that it can't do? Hey, Paul, how's it going? Nice to see you, man. Vox says Nashville had a bad flood in the Opry way back when. Brad Paisley lost a bunch of Croc custom Telecasters. I think I remember that story. Yeah, I think I remember that. It was a while ago. Paul has a suggestion for everyone. He says, Pedal of the Week, Tone City Tiny Spring, version 2. Voice like the Mad Professor Silver Spring, both Robin Ford sound, $55 USD. I've tried some of the Tone City pedals, Paul. I haven't tried that one. Not bad. Some of them are not bad. So that's an interesting suggestion. We'll have to check it out. Paul says he's reading the Dave Grohl autobiography. Very entertaining. I'm sure it is. I love autobiographies. I read the one that Ozzy wrote. I read the one Keith Richards wrote. Both very entertaining, I gotta say. The Ozzy one was probably more entertaining. He's lived quite a wild life, so he's got a lot of stories. Very, very interesting stuff. Interesting characters. And that's probably only the stories they can tell. I'm sure there's a lot of other stories they can't tell. Or they don't want to tell. Profile says, new gear, Z-Rec Synergy. Nice, dude. The Z-Rec stuff is awesome. How do you like it? Give us your feedback. The good, the bad, and the ugly. What's your take so far? How long have you had it? Very nice, man. Congratulations on that. Hey, Richard, good morning to you. What's happening, my brother? Guitars and Synth says, I need to see my unused gear. What are the best places to sell online? Okay, I think you meant I need to sell my unused gear. Best places to sell online, usually, eBay, of course, Reverb, your local Craigslist or Kijiji, Marketplace on Facebook. Although Marketplace is a little hit and miss, people are very unreliable, not very respectful, I gotta say, on Marketplace. They'll ping you, they'll ask you questions, and then they'll just disappear. So you end up kind of wasting your time there for a little while, Guys, before we get too deep into the chat, and we got a lot of stuff to chat about today, please give me a thumbs up. Would appreciate that. We can get that out of the way right off the bat and talk about other cool stuff. There is a poll question today, and please take a moment to vote on that. We'll take a look at that in a couple of minutes. I always like to throw in a poll question for the Sunday shows just to, get a heartbeat of what's happening out there. It's kind of hard when we got to traverse this digital window, between you and I. But I like to ask questions, see what you guys think, get your feedback as much as possible. And today's question is, it's kind of a question that I actually saw recently. I forget where. Somebody else was talking about this, and I thought that was a good question to throw in because often I wonder about this myself. And I won't jump into the poll question right away, but I'll just tell you what the question was, and you can go to the community channel on Addicted to Gear, and you can, vote before we actually look at that. And the question is, are you a guitar player or a guitar collector? And I had to think about that myself because there's a fine line, but a definite distinction between those two types of people. And I'll give you my answer later on in today's chat. But think about that question and maybe put your answer in the community section where you have the polls. All right. If you don't know where to find it, just go into my YouTube channel, go into the community tab, and you should be able to see it there. I think there's already 172 votes on that. So we'll look at that in a little bit. All right. All right. So what's been happening in terms of interesting things this last week? I don't think it's too, it's been that busy in terms of new products coming out. I mean, there's always stuff coming out, but nothing fantastic, I gotta say. I'll talk about a couple of things that I spotted. One of the things I wanted to mention for those of you that are into inexpensive guitars and accessories too, just so you know, and I'm not affiliated with these guys in any way, I just wanted to share this with you guys. Guitar Fetish is having a 35% clearance sale on selected items. And I look at that stuff from time to time because I do think they have some interesting parts and different things. If you're building your own guitars, it's a decent resource to get inexpensive stuff. Basically 35%, that's not a bad deal. So you can use their code clearance 35 on selected stuff. I've been trying to get a hold of one of their new guitars that they have, which is actually quite similar to this guy in many ways, except it's got a reverse headstock that they sell, and I unfortunately haven't gotten around to taking a look at it yet. But it's an interesting guitar. I wanted to try it out. What do they call it? The SBS guitar or something like that. Do you guys know about this one? Have you seen it? It's quite interesting. I didn't like the one that they came out with previous, which is here, let me share. I'm talking and I'm not even sharing with you guys. So here, have you seen these guitars? These are, they call them SBS guitars, Steve Brown sound. Few people have reviewed them. I don't like the Relic version of these guitars, but they did come out with the versions that are not Relic. I don't know if they have them in stock still. I think they do. I like the ones that are not Relic a lot more. I wish they didn't have a reverse headstock on them. I'm not a big fan of the reverse headstock. But the guitar, very similar to what I'm holding here today. Floyd on it, humbuckers. I think it has a split system. I'm not really sure. And $359. It's not a bad deal if you ask me. I mean, if you end up getting something like a Charvel, you're gonna be paying $1,000. This one has a really nice neck carve on it. You can see the heel in the back is contoured. Again, not a big fan of the reverse headstock. I wish they would give us an option for a version without a reverse headstock. See, it does have the push-pull on it, so I think you can split the coils. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of that either. But for $359, it's not bad. 3-piece alder, roasted flame maple, 20-inch radius on the fretboard, which is quite comfortable, 22 frets. Yeah, Alnico 2 pickups, not bad. Anyways, they have these versions here that don't have the reverse headstock on them, but they're SSH configuration. See, if they would have made it this way with 2 humbuckers, I probably would have grabbed one sooner. But I guess I'll have to wait. Vox says, my dogs hate reverse headstocks. They hit their head on the tuners. Yeah, I don't like them either because it's always like, you're kind of in reverse. You're always doing this automatically and then you're like, oh yeah, they're over here. I only have one guitar. I have one guitar with a reverse headstock. So I got that box checked, Shane. Because Shane says everyone needs a reverse headstock in your life. So I got that box ticked. Vox says the only Floyd I own is Pink Floyd albums. And Shane wanted to know, how has your experience been with Harley Bentons? Any lemons? Out of the few that I've tried, I wouldn't say a lemon, but it could have been improved. The one that I felt was could have been a really great guitar was the one, it was like a junior style guitar I did a review on. It was a white guitar. And what I didn't like about that guitar, it had P90 pickups on it, which were cool, but the bridge on it was a very uncomfortable bridge, and I like to keep my hands on the bridge when I play. And it was like so sharp and angular, and it felt like it was digging into my palms, and wasn't very, it was also very thick. So I couldn't get the action low enough on the guitar because it was such a thick bridge. I think they took the wrong bridge. They shouldn't have used that bridge. So I since modified that guitar. First of all, I changed the color to red. I repainted it, and I think I have a video on that after it was modified on my channel. I also changed the bridge to a flatter profile wraparound bridge with adjustable saddles, and I could get the action way lower, and it was such a big difference in terms of comfort. So if they would have just made that one change on that guitar model, I think they would have had a way better guitar. But it is what it is, and so it's not, like I said, it wasn't really a lemon, because overall the rest of the guitar was fine. But you know, the bridge is quite an important piece of the guitar makeup, probably the most important piece. So if you have an issue with the bridge, you're gonna have a guitar that's not that easy to play. Paul says he's looking at putting a reverse headstock on his next build, an offset body with Seymour Duncan Fat Cat P90 pickups. A lot of people are talking about those Fat Cat pickups. Haven't tried them. But you know, that could be really cool. Reverse headstock on his, you know, I think a reverse headstock is really a personal choice. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say I go out looking for a reverse headstock guitar. I don't think most people do. But I think, you know, a lot of people are willing to live with it if it does happen to have a reverse headstock on it. Eddie says Gibsons are half reversed. What's 3 more? Yeah, it's true if you look at it that way. But if you're a Strat player, you know, and you haven't actually owned a 3 configuration, you automatically go here. You know, it's like muscle memory. You're playing and you just go here. So when you have to go, and then now you're tuning this way, and typically I think tuning backwards, it's a little bit different. It's a little different. It just takes a little time to get used to it, and then after you're good. So Peter England is here, and he says, first of all, hi Peter, how's it going? He says opinions on the Fender Custom Tweed Champ. You know, there's been a lot of great Fender amps that have come and gone over time. Well, not really gone, they stick around actually. The Tweed lineup is usually quite famous for that sound. I think like Tweed Twin, for example, Bassman, even the Champs, for example, the Juniors, you can get some really cool sounding Fender amps in the Tweed lineup. The thing is, I feel that there are limitations for that kind of sound. I think a lot of people do like it, like a nice Tweed Twin would be killer. But you do have that sound, and if you're looking for something that is a little bit more flexible, maybe it's not the best choice. But I think, like, you know, just like Shane said, everybody needs at least one guitar that has a reverse headstock. I think everybody should buy at least one tweed Fender amp, you know, something a little vintagey to get you into that that vintage sound, you know, that raw vintage sound. You know, if you're looking at playing certain types of music, certainly a tweed amp won't necessarily be the go-to choice because it is kind of like pigeonholed into that specific sound. And maybe a lot of people don't even like the Fender sound. Maybe a lot of people are looking for something heavier. Fender guitar amps are not necessarily known for, you know, being heavy amplifiers in terms of sounds, other than the Bassman. Bassman with some pedals on it, if you don't want to go deaf. But they're definitely cool amps, man. Especially if you want to do that, you know, Stones sound. You want to get into that, you know, Black Crowes sound. I mean, I feel that type of sound is coming back. There's a lot of bands that are experimenting with that kind of sound right now. Paul says, what does Paul say? A Gibson has half the tuners on the reverse side. I don't see your beef. I mean, yeah, I know, Paul. It's just, I don't know, why make your life complicated? Life is hard enough. You know what I mean? It's like you can get a car that has a steering wheel on the other side if you know, if you really want to, but why would you? You know? I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm old school like that. I don't know. Just going back. So Vox Guitar Rock says, for music and gear, I search so I can check out your videos out, and there's a couple of different channels with the same name. I just looked for your avatar and subbed. All right, cool. So that's ironed out. Yeah, Eddie, I think it's a question of an adjustment period when you're playing something new. It's like anything, you know, you switch from one guitar to another. It always feels a little awkward at first, but, you know, play it for 20 minutes and it's like, you forget what the other guitar felt like. And Vox says that he likes the headstocks, the look on Hendrix Tribute, but it's not for him. Doesn't like the reverse headstock either. Mark loves his Fender Tweed amp, he says. Yeah, it's got that sound, you know. You can't get that sound from any other amp if that's the sound that you're after. I think, you know, if you want a Fender sound, get a Fender amp. You want a Marshall sound, get a Marshall amp. You know, a lot of us, we're trying to find that middle ground where we can get an amp that does everything. And I don't think that exists. I think you really have to go specifically into that amp. Otherwise, you got to go with a modeler. Tony, on a Fender style guitar, Strat and Telecaster, what's your favorite fretboard radius? I don't really have that much of a preference because I have so many guitars that have different radiuses on them. So I'm kind of accustomed to playing everything. The guitar I was playing last week, I was playing my Fender Strat, and that one had a 7.25 radius, more of a vintagey flavored guitar, and I like playing that one. You know, 9 is comfortable, 12 is comfortable, even 16 on some of my guitars. So I can't really say that I have a favorite radius. I like them all. I don't like, to me, radius doesn't bother me that much. I know a lot of people feel like, oh no, if it doesn't have a 12-inch radius, I can't play it. I'm not like that. I can play it no matter what. I don't really mind. I actually like the change when you pick up a guitar and it has a little bit of a slightly different radius to it. You know, it adds to that different feel. And I mentioned it a couple of times before. I don't like redundancy. And you would think that's not true because if you look at the guitars that I have behind me and guitars that I play during the shows and reviews, there's a lot of, like, for example, Telecasters. I have more than one. So you're probably asking yourself, like, what do you mean, Tony? Like, you don't like redundancy. You have a couple of, quite a few Telecasters, quite a few Stratocasters, quite a few Gibson style guitars. That's redundant, but they're all different. And that's not necessarily stuff you see, when you're just looking at the guitar. But they all play different, sound different. If it's not the different pickups, it's different radius. It might be like, some of them might have a slightly more frets, less frets. The bridges are not always the same. They have different types of saddles on them, and there's a whole bunch of things that make the guitars unique. So I don't feel like they're redundant. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Where did I put my water? Oh, here it is. Cheers, guys. Gotta wet the whistle here. All right. Mark says, I got some gig money from gigs on Friday and Saturday. I'm itching to hit a guitar store today. So tell me something, Mark. Is the money that you make from your gigs specifically and solely for your guitar fund, your guitar and gear fund? Or are you like just dipping into your savings there and scratching an itch? Because that's a good way to feed an addiction, just gig, get paid, take your money from the gigs, buy more stuff, go to another gig, get paid, buy more stuff. What are you looking at getting, Mark? What's next on your hit list? Paul says, didn't Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols use Fender Twins? That's heavy enough for me. You can get heavy. Even with the Twins, you can get heavy. Depends, what flavor of sound you're playing, I guess. Nella says, the Music Zoo has amps 20% off. Use code AMP20 at checkout. Thank you for that, Nella. See, I like that. Some of you guys have our backs. It's always good to know where we can save a couple of bucks. Shane says, I'm going to Tokyo tomorrow with my 18-year-old daughter. Should I force her to go to the guitar stores with me? I would say yes. Force her, Shane. She's got to learn. If you entice her, groom her into becoming a guitar addict, then you can team up on your wife and then say, well, honey, it's not for me, it's for her, Rob F is here. Hey, Rob. Rob says he's subscribed. Good morning. Thank you for that. Hopefully you'll be a regular, Rob. Jump in on the chat. Don't feel shy or anything. Where the channel is open to everyone. Ask your questions. Jeff says, got an Ibanez on Friday. Good guitar. The AZES 40. Good guitar, but setup was bad. Loose tuners. No relief. High action. Bad intonation. Meant to be for beginners. If I didn't know how to fix it, I would have sent it back. Amen to that, Jeff. That is a very common beef people have with guitars. It seems like stores today, they don't take the time to set up their guitars. It's like they expect people to buy a guitar that is poorly set up. Like, first of all, how are you going to fall in love with a guitar if you grab it off the wall and play it and the action is this high off of the neck, and it's buzzing all over the place or hard to play? Like, how do they expect to sell that, And it's almost like the guitar shops are expecting people to then pay extra to have a setup done. Or maybe they'll throw it in. They'll throw it in like, you buy a guitar and we'll throw in a setup. Sometimes they do that, to be fair. But, if it was me and I had a music shop, I would have a full-time guy making sure everything on the wall is set up properly, tuned up properly, just start from the left, work your way all the way to the right, and when you get to the right, start again, you know, and just keep doing that, you know. But people don't think about that. I don't know. It's like stores, unfortunately, I think are slowly becoming disconnected from their customers. Vox says, I got a nice Martin acoustic for my wife. Best trade I've ever made. What did you trade for it? First of all, congratulations, Vox. I mean, Martin guitars. Beautiful instruments most of the time. I've rarely seen a dud when it comes to a Martin. If they're taken care of, they're awesome guitars. But you must have traded something quite substantial for it, because those guitars are usually not inexpensive. Danielle says, I had mixed experiences with the Ping tuners on Eastman guitars. Often good, but I have replaced them with Goto on several guitars. What was the issue? They're just like loose, or they slip? Well, the Gotos are a good alternative. The Clousons are also good. If you're going to replace your tuners, might as well get something good. Dan says beginners have no clue what setup even is. Yeah, and one reason they give up, they try to play a suspension bridge. Then try to play a suspension bridge. Yeah, I know, Dan. I know. I've been through a lot of guitars over the years that I've picked up used that were almost unplayable. And it always amazed me, like, the guy selling the guitar, I wonder if he's selling the guitar because it's so poorly set up that he feels like it's a crappy guitar, you know. And then I take it home and I give it the treatment. I give it the Tony setup treatment, and it becomes a beautiful guitar to play. But it's sad, you know. I wonder how many people are like just taking their guitar and throwing it in the corner after a while just because they feel like, I can't play this thing. I must not have the skills. Nella says stores have to compete with online retailers, many of whom do not set up before shipping. That is true, and it is costly. I mean, you do have to pay somebody to set up a guitar, but isn't that why people will choose to buy a guitar at a guitar store? You know, otherwise, why would I want to buy a guitar from a guitar store? Generally, you know, if you shop online, you can probably get a better deal, right? If you don't mind having an instrument shipped to you, you can probably find a better deal than your local store. But you know, the whole point is that you're going to the store to have that personalized attention, right? If they're giving you exactly what you can get online, then of course people are just going to choose to get the best price. Vox says, if I restring all of my guitars at once, I have to take out a mortgage on my house. Does that mean I have a problem? Yes. Welcome to the club. And with the price of strings going up, do like I do. Just buy them in bulk. Save yourself a couple of bucks. Do what you need to do. Peter England says different tension on E strings. Also pickup angle on Strat changes tone on reverse headstock. Yeah, that is true. And that's part of the reason Hendrix got that unique tone, was because if you look at the Fender Strat, the bridge pickup is at an angle. And typically, if you look at it the way it's set up, you know, the angle's like this. So the magnet pole on the low E string is further away from the bridge, but if you restring it the other way around, it's opposite. So it does definitely change the sound on the guitar, right? And then your E string is also longer, right? Because instead of, you know, stopping here, it's longer. So yeah, there's a couple of other reasons why you would want to get a reverse headstock if you're looking for something a little bit different. Yeah, Wilkinson tuners are good. I've tried a few. You know, they're relatively inexpensive still. A lot less expensive than the Clusons or the Goto tuners, but they're generally decent as long as you don't get knockoffs. There's a lot of knockoff stuff floating around out there, guys. Be careful. Knockoff pickups, knockoff tuners. So a lot of times you can find like the Goto tuners for like your Les Paul, and if you're buying them used, like I'm gonna say, you know, 8 out of 10 times those tuners have come off a Chipson and people are trying to pass them off as the real thing. What they'll tend to do is they'll buy the real Gotos, they'll keep the packaging, they'll take off the Chipson versions, put them into the packaging and try to pass them off as the real thing. So they just basically, you know, got themselves a huge discount on the real ones. And you end up getting them in the packaging thinking, oh yeah, they must be real. You know, the packaging says so. But no, it's the old switcheroo, man. Happens a lot. I've even been spawning a lot of fake Seymour Duncan pickups, a lot of fake 57 Classic pickups, Slash pickups. You got to be careful, man. Danielle says the main problem with the ping was uneven force required to turn through the rotation of the buttons. Tried lubricating nut first. Okay, well, you know, it could have been just a dud tuner. Shane says the Schecter are set up with their higher end guitars. Before they ship, mine was set up perfectly out of the box. It's always a beautiful thing when you order something and you get it at home and you open it up and everything's already done. You know, it's practically in tune. It's a lot rarer these days, but it does happen. Paul says he went guitar shopping with a friend last week. He bought a brand new Player 2 Telecaster. We asked the store if they did setups. They said no. Man, I'd be embarrassed. If it was me and I had a store, absolutely you should be doing setups. I guess people are like, you know, slimming down the services. They just don't want to spend any extra overhead, unfortunately. Vox says, I need to replace the tuners on an acoustic I have. Any recommendations? When I have to replace tuners on any guitars, usually the first thing I do, Vox, is I try to see if I can get a replacement tuner that fits the existing holes. Because I hate to have to drill new holes if I don't have to. So I'll go out of my way to find something that fits first, you know? Like, for example, I had changed the tuners on my Epiphone SG, and they had the regular old classic style tuners with the small white buttons on them. I don't like those. So I ended up changing them out, and I got a set that fits perfectly so I don't have to drill new holes. Sometimes it's a little bit more expensive to do that, but I like it better because then if ever you want to sell that guitar, you can easily take out the tuners, put back the old ones. I usually keep them for that reason, and then keep the better tuners and put them on something else. Like I said earlier, I think the Goto tuners are really good. You can even get Wilkinson tuners that are decent. Sometimes people will put on, you know, the acoustic guitars are not necessarily that different. You can get a lot of good quality tuners for acoustic guitars. By chance, what acoustic guitar is it? What type of acoustic guitar? If you let me know, I can tell you a little bit more. I'll give you a little bit more specific suggestions, because acoustic guitar tuners are sometimes a little bit different. Shane says, I've actually been buying Fender branded strings recently. I used to in the very early days. Do you remember the Fender Bullets? I used to buy those. Didn't buy them for long though. I think they used to break quite often. They had like a little lug at the bottom of the string that was kind of like a, I don't know if it was lead, but it seemed like it was either tin or lead or something. They had a little bullet shaped end that would slide into the bridge. Not the best strings, I gotta say. For me, I've been using the same strings for ages. I always go with Seymour Duncan. One version or another, but mostly always Seymour Duncan. Nella says, Reverend and PRS, including the SC line, do a setup before shipping to the stores. The PRS stuff that I have or that I bought was always like perfect. Never had issues. DMAX says, there's a store like that in my city. They have cool gear, but they'll charge extra for setup. Every other store here, big and small, will do at least a basic setup free of charge. Same here. Like if you go to Long and McQuaid and you buy a guitar, they usually throw in a setup, which they normally charge for, but they give it to you for free. I think I still have one on file somewhere that I never used because honestly, I don't know who's doing the setup, you know? If it's an inexperienced guy, you can't expect them to do miracles. They're probably just going to install new strings, check the intonation, you know, the basic minimal setup. You know what I mean? Eddie wants to know if Hipshot makes staggered tuners. I was looking around and staggered are hard to find. Yeah, I forget. I have a set on one of my guitars, but it's not Hipshot. I forget who makes those. They're locking staggered tuners on one of my Strat guitars. And yeah, they're sweet. I'm not a big fan of the locking tuners per se. I kind of like, it's a love-hate relationship for me on those because I don't necessarily need the locking aspect. And I like to actually wrap the strings around the post and not just pass it through and then snip it. Because I feel like if you ever work on your guitars and you need to loosen up your strings, you have to kind of take them off. And then the little ends where it grips, where the little post grips the string tends to get unraveled. And often the strings end up sounding like rubber bands after a while because of it. So even if I have locking tuners, I tend to just forego the locking aspect and just wrap them around the post. Shane's playing Purple Haze while watching Tony. That's cool, Shane. Hey, how many of you know how to play if you're playing Whole Lotta Love and you're playing it like I just played it, you're playing it wrong. Did you know that? A lot of people that I see playing A Whole Lotta Love don't play it right. A lot of people will do this. They'll bend the string. But if you see people bending down, it's wrong. And the reason why is you have to actually hit both the strings simultaneously. You gotta actually do this. Like I'm hitting the D string as at the same time as the A string, and you gotta bend it up half a note. So you gotta go. You gotta play both strings, and it's subtle, but the difference is there. There's a lot of people that play that wrong. And if you throw in a fuzz on top of it, it even makes it more obvious. That's the tip of the day for. Vox says I play everything wrong, so no issues. At least you're consistent. That's the key. Oh man, it sounds wrong, Gene, because it's not as full. It has to double up. It's like a fake double tracking, you know. And Jimmy was a master at that. Probably, Rich. So I wanted to also mention something. Oh, well, I wanted to talk about pedals today a little bit more, because you guys, you know, we talked about that last week. A lot of people buy a lot of pedals and end up buying more than what they need because it's sort of less expensive than buying a new amp or a new guitar. So I'm sure a lot of you out there probably have quite a collection of pedals, and I just wanted to know, like, what offhand, what's your 3 favorite pedals? Like, if you had to get rid of most of your pedals and stick with 3, which ones would you keep? J. Paul says, I've seen the writing artists change the riff and the tempo and add and subtract. That's what a lot of people do if they don't want to get a strike. You end up just changing it or playing it really badly. And then usually it flies under the radar. Hey Billy, nice to see you, buddy. Thanks for the reminder to hit the like button. Guys, listen to Billy. He knows what he's saying. Give me a like if you don't mind, if you haven't already done so. Music and Gear says, Tony, I just wanted to say I wasn't plugging my channel on your show. I'm here due to loving the Sunday live show. Just wanted to be clear about that. Hey, no problem, dude. No problem, man. Don't sweat it. Hey, I don't mind plugging other people's channels. It's not a competition, dude. There's a lot of pie out there for everyone, and you know, I'm subscribed to a lot of my friends' channels that pop in here, and it's all good, man. It's community. It's not like competition. You can watch whoever you like, and I support your channel, dude. Hopefully you're putting out good content. Keep it going, man. D-Max says, I regret getting rid of my Keeley compressor. Yeah, that's a good one. I held on to mine, but I ended up putting, right now I have the SP, the exotic SP compressor on my board. I don't know if you guys can see my board here. Probably not. I'd lift it up, but it's heavy, man. I can show you what's on my board if you guys want to see it. I just have to put the guitar down. Give me a sec. I'll do that. Let me just answer a couple of questions here. Rico says, Tony, my 7-watt bass breaker has no reverb. So I picked up a Fender Hammer Tone Reverb, 85 bucks. Great sound. Yeah, Fender has been making some really sweet sounding reverb pedals. And I'm okay with using digital reverb, guys. I don't mind that at all. A lot of people are like, no, it's got to be spring. It's got to be real. Why? As long as it sounds good. I like reverb. I usually have reverb on to a certain degree, almost always. I just feel it makes the sound more live, more lively, more 3D, you know? You don't want to overdo the reverb, but a little reverb and like a little delay is always good. Fattens up the tone a little bit. Mark's Gas Station says that the Hipshot does make staggered tuners, and yes, they are hard to find, but they're out there. I bought their locking staggered set for a Modify project. Yeah, there's a lot of choice when it comes to tuners. There's a lot of new brands out there too that I'm not like, I don't want to necessarily recommend, because I haven't tried them all. I usually go with the tried and true options out there. Goto's always high up on my suggestion list. Schaller is usually good. You know, if you go to like solo guitars, if you guys know solo guitars, they have a lot of different parts, and they have let me see what tuners they have right now. They might have something that will fit your needs. Like Planet Waves makes tuners as well. Again, they're not cheap. They're like 144 bucks Canadian for a set. So they're not inexpensive. You can get OEM, you know, Fender tuners as well if you're looking for locking tuners. They're usually about $100 or so. Yeah, the Planet Wave stuff usually has the auto trim function on them that I'm not a big fan of. I usually would go with Schaller, but Schaller are quite expensive. The locking versions of the Schaller tuning heads are expensive. The 3x3s, just to say, like a 3x3 gold version is like retailing for $300, man. It's a lot of money for tuners. A little bit too expensive, but they are cream of the crop. And a lot of times you can even get just replacement onesies, right? If something breaks or one of the tuners goes wonky on you or whatever, you don't necessarily have to replace the whole set. Like Hipshot does sell onesies. You can buy one tuner for about 20 bucks. Not all companies do that, but it's good to know that that's an option. Searching for Tone is here. How you doing, buddy? He says, I'm sorry late to the show. Are we talking about Sweetwater's ProPlec? We weren't, but we can. What about the ProPlec? What are they doing? Let me see here. So they're offering the Plec option for how much? Do they mention how much it is? A lot of people like plecking their guitars. It's a faster, more accurate way of doing it. I have my my Fender Les Pauls came plecked, and I haven't had an issue with it. You know, you can still get a very good setup without necessarily having to go through a plec machine. You know, but if you have access to one and you're willing to pay the price, then great. Vox says, I'd keep my overdrive, my EQ, and a multi. Is that cheating? Not really. I mean, nowadays a lot of people will do the multi effects with the pedals because you can get decent tone. Before it was hard to get decent tone when you would use pedals with a multi pedal system, like an all-in-one. Oftentimes it wouldn't sound good. But now the technology is getting better that you can actually put in pedals and go right into the loop of your multi effects unit. Paulo, nice to see you, man. Paulo says, is the DSL-1W a good pedal platform for apartment use? Yeah, why not? Most amps are decent for apartment use, unless you have like a really powerful 100-watt amplifier, which what ends up happening when you're trying to play those amplifiers at low volumes is you lose all the bottom end, you know. But a lot of times if you have a decent pedal setup and you have an EQ pedal, you can reintroduce the bottom ends with an EQ. Shane says, I'll keep my Digitech Drop, my Boss Metal Core, and my Zoom G1X4. And Rich says, I always have to have my Boss DS1. And then J. Paul says, I haven't used nothing but a 10-band pedal since I got the Gen 3 Katana. The effects are quality. I'm stuck here. Okay. Yeah, that's there's something to be said with having an amplifier that has effects built in, because you're always going to be able to at least get part of the way there, you know, and they're getting better. A lot of them now have really good quality effects. They're able to offer IRs and all kinds of stuff. And Paul said it's a Bad Monkey, the DD3, and the EHX Crayon. A lot of people don't know about the Crayon, or maybe overlook it. I still think Electro Harmonics makes some good quality pedals, and I think the Crayon is one of them. D-Max says the best overall drive pedal is my Boss Angry Driver. It's the most versatile and the one I'd keep for that reason. What do you guys normally look for in a pedal? I'm going to put this guitar down for a second. Give me a sec. I'm just going to unplug it. Let me just put this down because I want to show you what I have on my pedal board. If you're interested, give me a sec. Running out of room on my stands back there, but I'm gonna need a bigger room soon. That's what I'm gonna need. So for my pedals on my pedal board, let me just unplug something here because I'm gonna show you. I gotta take this one off because it's gonna fall off. Sometimes I'll just plug in a pedal if I'm using it just to test it out so I don't have to take everything off my board. This is a quality pedal, by the way, guys. If you're looking at something that sounds really nice, Queen of Tone, you guys know this one? I did a review on this one from Nuex. Very nice sounding pedal indeed. It's basically two pedals in one. It's like split down the middle, so you have two of them that you can mix together. And it's got really nice options. Even you can see the back here. You have different switching options here and routing options as well. Check out the video on this. Very nice, good sounding pedal that's not too expensive. So that's one I was playing recently. I was just going into my Princeton. I just wanted to see how the pedal worked with the Princeton. Not all pedals work well with all different amp scenarios. So you have to almost try them, because you can have a really nice pedal that you find is one of your favorites and it could sound great on a Fender amp, and then you put it in a Marshall and the EQ's not right, you know? So you gotta experiment to see which ones work best with different scenarios. So here, there's a couple of other go-tos that I have. The Flashback from TC Electronic. Decent delay pedal. Nothing bad. I mean, it works well. I like the tone print options. If you guys don't know, you can actually load. There's like 3 memory slots on these pedals that you can actually load custom, what they call tone prints, that you can download. And it's really cool how you can actually download them to your pedal directly through your phone. You just have to hold the phone up to your pickups, and it downloads it directly into the pedal. It's like quite futuristic. So I like the TC Electronic stuff. They're pretty cool. This to me is one of my go-tos, the EP Booster. I have this. I've had this for years, and it's my go-to. If you want to fatten up your sound and you want to like make everything sound better, just keep this on all the time. It's amazing. It really works well. That is like a sort of a go-to for me. What I usually also recommend is this. This is the Joyo analog delay. Very inexpensive pedal, at least when I got it. I've had this for years. And it's basically a clone of the MXR delay. And a lot cheaper. And I'm waiting for it to break. You know, I'm like, when it breaks, maybe I'll buy something better. But it hasn't broken. I've been using it for years, and it's got a really nice sound to it. So I've kept it. And I usually use it for a little slap back delay. Works quite nice when I don't want to go, you know, full Monty with this. This one's nice because it's got a bunch of different types of delay, and it's got a looper built in as well. But sometimes it's overkill. So that's that. So here's what I've been playing with recently. I just want to make sure I don't have anything loose because I'm going to lift up my board here. Oh, and this is heavy. Okay, so let me just put it up this way here. Woo. Show and tell time. As you can see, I'm still using these boards that I got from the company called Acclam guitars. Really good quality boards. You can see just by the feet, everything's adjustable. And I like the system that they have. They have these sliding pads that you just tighten down, so you can put your pedals on basically 2 levels, and you don't have to use Velcro or anything like that. Works really well. I'm using a Decibel 11 power supply in the back. You can see it here. Decibel 11. Everything's routed through the bottom. And basically, the pedals that I have on my board haven't really changed all that much. There's a couple of new ones that I've been playing around with recently. So, TC Electronic tuner, Polytune, no brainer, good quality tuner. In terms of a EQ compressor pedal, I have this one on it, which is the SP compressor from Exotic. I like it because it's small and it sounds good. Does what I need it to do. My new favorite pedal, this one here. This one is from Nuex. This one is the what do they call it? The 65 Overdrive, and it's made to basically emulate that Fender sound. You know, having a nice cranked Fender amp. It works really well for driving a lot of different types of amplifiers. So I put it on there, I've tried it out, and I kept it on there because it actually worked really well. The sleeper pedal that a lot of people don't know about is this one. This is the Mojo Hand Rook, and I think they made a bad choice in terms of the artwork on here because it's so dark you can't even read what it is. And you know, a lot of times I have a hard time reading which one is the volume, which one is the bass and the treble, because it's all black. You can't see it very well. They should have used white writing on there. So the board, somebody was asking what's the name of the board again. I'll show it to you. Acclam guitars. I basically did a review on this board when I got it. So if you go back into my reviews, you'll see it there. And I reviewed it in detail. They're not cheap boards, but they're good. They're really good. I highly recommend them. Then, of course, this guy, which is basically another Joyo pedal. This is basically also a clone of the MXR 5-band EQ. And it works well. Same thing here. I bought it. I put it on my board. I said, hey, when it breaks, I'll buy something else. And, you know, go with the MXR version or whatever. Never broke. And I've had this on my board for years. Does what I need it to do. The little sliders light up. And it sounds like an EQ. I mean, it's pretty clean. No issues with it whatsoever. And then for my reverb here, I go with the Hall of Fame Again, TC Electronic. Again, I like the options it has. Works really well. It's been very reliable. A very cool delay pedal that I've tried out recently and kept on my board is this guy. This is also, let me just show you here. It's a small delay pedal. I'm looking through the crack here. Small delay pedal from Nuex, and it's called the Edge. And very nice sounding delay pedal, and it's tiny. So that one works well because it doesn't take a lot of room. And I've been playing with the Nuex Mod Core as well. The Mod Core is basically a whole bunch of modulation effects in one pedal. I've been playing a lot with that recently, just experimenting. Generally, the bulk of the pedals on my board stay put. I usually will swap out an overdrive, you know, play with different delay sounds and stuff like that. But generally, they kind of stay put for a long time if I like them. It takes a lot to knock off a pedal on my pedal board if I don't, you know, if I try other things, I have to really like it to swap out. I've had this pedal for years. This used to be my old favorite, the Pinnacle from Wampler. This is like almost like a Van Halen sound in a box. Works really well. Wampler makes some decent stuff. Very, very cool stuff. Of course, if you want that Hendrix sound, you need to get one of these, the Univibe MXR. You know, no brainer if you want to have something cool there. There's so many other types of pedals that are interesting. This is the one I built myself. It's basically, they call it the Dark Side of the Moon, which is basically a Screddy clone. I had the Screddy Lunar Lander for a while and ended up selling that one and keeping this one. So I built it myself, and it's basically like an overdrive and a fuzz all in one. Works really well. If you guys are handy and you want to build your own pedals, that's the one you can play around with. So that's that. I think that's enough for the show and tell. There's going to be a lot of pedal reviews coming your way, guys. I just have to find time to do it, and there's just so many that I want to try and get out there for you guys. But I think I'm going to do a pedal blitz. I think the next few videos is basically going to be pedals. If you have any suggestions for stuff that you'd like to see on my channel, though, I'm always open to suggestions. Did you guys see the video I put up yesterday? I don't know if you guys noticed, but I put up a new video yesterday on this guy. Oh, just dropped some more pedals. On this guy, which was a very interesting thing. I was looking for an affordable but flexible speaker, mostly for acoustic gigs. I'm pretty much covered for electric guitar. As you can see behind me, I got, you know, more than enough choice when it comes to cabinets for guitars. But when it comes to acoustic, I didn't have something that fit the bill. And the reason why I was looking specifically for something like this is a Joyo unit, by the way. This is the Joyo BSK40. And it's basically an all-in-one solution. Check it out. It's an all-in-one solution for guitar, and I think it works best with acoustic guitars. You could probably plug an electric guitar in here, but I don't think it works as well. It's, you know, it's not really made for an electric guitar. I think it's better suited for an acoustic, but it's got everything on it. This thing's crazy, man. And with an acoustic guitar, it actually sounds great. 40 watts of power in this little thing. It's made as a wedge, so you can, you know, tilt it, put it on the ground, point it towards your face, and 40 watts of power. You can put it on a stand, and it's got everything built in. They basically threw everything but the kitchen sink in here. Check out the full review, but it just, in a nutshell, stuff that you don't usually get on other types of speaker systems like this. I know you can't really see it, but the fact that they have a DC out, this is battery powered. You can power it up as a battery and you can plug it into the wall, but you can also use it to recharge your stuff. So let's say you're playing somewhere and you have an iPad, or you know, you gotta search some tabs or something on your phone and your battery's dying. You can actually use it to charge up your devices with the battery that's built in. Really, really cool, I think. Balanced mic input, direct out that you can go right to your mixer, which you know is always essential. You can plug in your headphones so you can actually play through this thing, and you can basically mute the amp and just play through your headphones, still using all of the effects and everything. That's always handy for sure. One of the things that I don't usually see, and I saw this for the first time here, you have a recording option where you can actually, you have two ports, kind of like a DAW, port 1, port 2, and you have an output that can be plugged into your phone. So say you're plugged into this thing and you want to live stream, you know, through your phone, you can actually just plug your phone into this thing. All of the sound options go through your phone, so you get good quality studio sound with your live stream video. That's crazy. You know, I've never seen that before. MP3 input. I mean, some people don't use MP3s anymore, but you can. You can plug right into the from a USB. You know, you have fast forward, pause, and everything, so you can actually play music. But you also have the aux in and a Bluetooth. So most people will go directly with Bluetooth today, so I can plug in my phone directly into this thing, have a 40-watt Bluetooth speaker, you know, and you can use this for parties. You know, play music. People come over, you're out in the backyard or something like that. 40 watts is plenty of power, you know. And you have some really nice effects built in. So you have the guitar tone stack here. You have your microphone tone stack and drums as well. So you can actually plug in your mic. You can sing, play your guitar, all independent controls. It even has an independent reverb for the voice and has another reverb for the guitar that work independently, chorus and delay. So it's really nice. I gotta say, it blew me away, this thing. I was expecting it to be like cheaper, but it feels so solid and it doesn't feel like it's a throwaway product. And I really like the fact that they threw in a battery that can be replaced. How many times have we seen products that have come out that work off battery power that you can't even replace the battery? So when it dies, you got to throw the product away, or you got to try and take it apart to try and change the battery, which hasn't been really designed for that. This has been designed to do it, so it's easy. It's right at the bottom. Take out the screws, put in your new battery, and you're good to go. Anyways, if you're looking for something for an acoustic guitar, I would recommend that. I haven't seen anything better. Nella says, have you seen the Roland Cube Street Amp? I have seen it. And actually, you know what? The orange Tolex on this reminds me of the early Roland Cubes, because I think they were using kind of similar colored Tolex on it. So the Roland Cube Street Amp is something different. I don't think it has as many built-in features as this one does. Roland makes good stuff though. What type of battery is it? That's a great question. I would have to look at the specs on it. I think it's LiPo. I think. I didn't really look into the detailed specs about what type of battery it is. I just know that it is replaceable. 6 hours, man, on the battery once it's charged. That's pretty decent for a 40-watt amp. And Nella says, looks like the Cube Street is now under the Boss brand. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not familiar with that. Paul says he's got another suggestion here. UAFX has a sale on some of their pedals, $100 USD each, $135 Canadian. Their Maestro Echoplex uses the same algorithm as the best-selling plugin. 135 bucks Canadian. That's decent. My psychological limit for a pedal, if it's brand new, is like around 150 bucks. I prefer to get them when they're cheaper. There's so many inexpensive pedals these days, man. Like, I'm going to show you something else here. Let me see, which one can I show you? So, for example, there's this guy, the Voodoo Vibe. I showed you the Uni Vibe, but you can get something like inexpensive like this. This is also from NuX. This is a Voodoo Vibe. It's basically like a Uni Vibe. You know, and you have tap tempo built in. You can, and it's actually, it does the Uni Vibe and a chorus effect in one. You have a little button over here that you can click. You can have both in a small footprint like that. So there's a lot of really inexpensive options. You don't necessarily have to break the bank with pedals. Vinny says, I have the Roland Cube Street under my desk in the office. I wonder if I can sneak this one in. It's always nice to have something in the office that you can play. I haven't mustered up the courage to bring in a guitar. You know, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to bring in a guitar into the office. You know, but if I would bring in a guitar, I would probably bring the small unit there that I can plug right into the guitar. Do I have it here? Yeah, I was cleaning up yesterday. I moved some stuff around. Anyways, you know, one of those little plug-in. You can go Bluetooth and you can get some really nice sounds with headphones. That's all you need, really, if you're just practicing quietly somewhere. Nella wants to know how, for those of you who bought one, how do you guys like the Nauticlon? I didn't jump into that bandwagon. I almost did. They almost got me. Sometimes you end up buying into these things because there's so much hype around these new units and you're like, oh yeah, I gotta get one. You know, I didn't get one. So I don't know how people like it. I ended up, for me, I have a couple of clones and I showed this already. That's the one that I actually dropped before. I thought I chipped it. No, I didn't chip it. I ended up getting one of the Stumac clones, Ghost Drive. This is one that I built. It took maybe an hour. I'm gonna say closer to like 2 hours to build it. But it was a fun build, and I just changed the design on it because I felt the Ghost Drive logo that they throw in with this thing looks a little cheesy. Looks like Casper, the friendly ghost. I wanted to put something that was a little bit more mean looking on it. But this is a really good clone, man, for not a lot of money, and you get to build it yourself. And it knocked my socks off compared to other clones that I have laying around. It actually sounds, in my opinion, better. Not because I built it or anything, just because it does. I think a lot of the clones that are out there, including the Horseman and Tone City had a version, 68 Pedals makes a version, Stumac makes a version. Even there's a couple of other Joyo pedals that are claimed to be a clone as well. They all get you into that ballpark. I think when you're playing it at full live volume is where you hear the most difference in a pedal like that. Explorer 867 says, I just picked up a Boss Katana 50EX. You know, the Boss Katanas, first of all, congratulations on that. They're really cool, handy transistor units. I wanted to get a Boss Katana head just because they're inexpensive, and I thought it would be a good option that would cover a lot of ground for like some live gigs when I don't want to necessarily bring more expensive tube gear. I can just take the Katana. So I'm still on the lookout for a head version of those, of one of those. If I find one for cheap, I might pull the trigger on it. Nella says, I have the Ghost Drive. It will be a winter project. I saw Tony's video on it. Cool, man, because that is a fun project. I usually like to keep my builds for fall and winter. The dark days, I call them. It's nice to be able to focus your energies on something when you come home and it's already dark. You know, go down in your basement or go into your garage and build a pedal, an amp, or build yourself another guitar or something like that. Makes the time pass. So I think you're gonna like it, Nella. When you finally finish building it, let me know how it turns out for you, but I think you're gonna like it. Searching for Tone says, I love the WA Centavo. I know I said that before, but hey, I haven't tried that one, man. So many cool pedals out there, man. This is why you can't stop at just a couple. You know, it's stronger than me. It's like you're always looking for something better. Mark's Gas Station says the Cool Music BP80, you get more for less comparing it to a Roland Street Cube. And Nella says, I also have 2 King pedals waiting to be built. That one looks a little bit more intimidating. I know what you mean, Nella. Take your time. Just make sure you don't make mistakes. Double check it, you know. Make sure the values are good. Use your little multimeter just to double check things, and you'll be fine. Just take your time. And Nella says the GHS PG14 is an interesting pedal. One can get some crazy tones, distortion out of it, bordering on fuzz. I like those kind of pedals that have a nice variety, a range of sounds. There's a few pedals that I've tried that are kind of like a one-trick pony. You get that one sound and it's not as dynamic. I like to be able to have a little bit more dynamics when I buy a pedal because I have different amps. They don't all work the same way, so you have to have a little bit more of a sweep that you can use just to make sure that, you know, it'll play well with a Marshall type amp or a Princeton or my Fender Supersonic or Deluxe, you know, that kind of thing. J. Paul says, I love my Gen 3 2x12 Katana. Yeah, a lot of people like those Gen 3s. That's what I've been looking for, but I didn't want to get a combo. I was just looking at a head. And the heads are harder to find because a lot of people don't go for a head. They'll go for the combo. I just don't want to lug around a big combo. Eddie says, stupid question. Eddie, there's no stupid questions. What kind of music would you use a clon for? That's a great question. I don't think there's a specific type of sound. You can use it for a variety of things. I think it's great for pushing an amp that's already on the edge of breakup. Just adding a little bit more fullness to it, a little bit more drive. I mean, I think like Stones, for example. Like we're talking about the tweed amps and all that kind of stuff. I think pushing a tweed amp with something like a clon would be really cool. So it's not like fully saturated, but just pushing a little bit more. You know, just driving the dynamics of the amplifier. I think that's where, to me, that's where the clones shine. Think of it as a boost, but just you can go a little further than that. Jeff says, my favorite clone at the moment is the Warm Audio Centavo. Knock the The RYRA off its throne. I haven't even tried the, is it RIRA or is it RYRA? I haven't tried that. You guys are giving me the itch to try a few more pedals. That's all I need. More pedals. And what are you gonna do? If you're in, you might as well go all in, I say. Take it easy, Kush, man. See you next week. Hopefully have a great week, man. Thumbs up to you. Stuart R says, I need to learn a new song. Give me some suggestions that you thought were fun to learn. Man, there's so many songs. What style of music are you playing, Stuart? I'll give you some suggestions. Let me know what you're looking at in terms of style. Eddie D-Max says, lots of people use clones as boosts or lower gain drives. That EQ different than some of the other drives out there. Yeah, exactly. Like just a boost. You're just boosting what the amp's already giving you. Eddie says, I'm currently doing a deep dive into Eruption, trying to get it note for note. It's killing me. Eddie, I've been down that rabbit hole and I kind of gave up. I should have, I wanted to actually do like a 30-day Eruption challenge just to see if I'd be able to pick up the entire thing in about 30 days. I think it's doable. But there are very intricate parts in that song that, you know, it's really almost like acrobatics for your fingers. So it's not, the hard part is not memorizing it. It's just getting your fingers to move that way when you're not used to playing that way. But I kind of let it be. I should actually revive that at some point. Paul says, I want to buy amp a 5150 2x12 combo and the Gen 3 2x12. I have the 5150 dry, the Katana wet side. Oh, I see what you mean. So you're doing a wet, dry, wet type of rig. Yeah, you don't need a big amp to do the wet side like that. Small amp, like even a Roland Cube, the small Roland Cubes would be perfect for that. So I guess the Katana would work well too. Yeah. Gene Kelly says, my uncovered humbuckers collect a lot of dust. How do I keep them clean? That's a great question. I never thought about that. You can get, I guess it would work for humbuckers because it works for keyboards. You know the slime? I don't know if you, when you're a kid, used to play with slime. You know, it comes in a little plastic thing. They sell that kind of stuff for keyboards. So you can actually just, it's tacky, right? So you can actually just tack it on your keyboard and pick up all like the crumbs and the chip bits and little hairs and stuff that fall in between the cracks of your keyboard. No reason why you couldn't do the same with your humbuckers. Just buy a little bit of that and just, you know, just press it on top of your humbuckers and get all that crud out of there. Nella says, stupid question. Is there a Princeton? Nella, there's no stupid questions. Is there a Princeton Reverb 65 head available? I'd settle for a good clone. I don't think so. You can probably get other types of amplifiers that will emulate a Princeton to a certain degree, but I don't think Fender ever released a Princeton head version. I really do wish Fender would eventually release a higher wattage Princeton, kind of like with what Mesa Boogie did with the Mark 1, 2, and 3, the combo. They basically took a Princeton and supercharged it, you know, they hot rodded it, and it sounded really good. But I think that's probably something that Fender should do. Release the Princeton, just call it the high-powered Princeton. A little bit more power, you know. Be interesting. iGuitar says, how do you keep track of when you change strings on all those guitars? Really, the guitar will tell me when it's time. I just change strings because you have a lot of guitars. It takes a lot longer for you to wear out the strings on one given guitar, unless you're playing a lot, that guitar specifically, a lot of the time. So they actually last longer because I don't always, you know, play all of the guitars for the same amount of time. But basically I know when it's time when the strings sound like rubber bands, and I just, you know, or I'll just wait till I have to do like an adjustment. If I have to, for example, you know, do a fret level or something like that, or polish the frets. Generally, if I take off the strings, I'll put a new set. Jeff says, if I had 300 years, I wouldn't be able to get eruption. Come on, man. You'd do it. You'd be able to do it. The trick is just to break it into small chunks. You know, take a snippet of about 10 seconds, work on that. And then just break it down into sections. When you got that one down, go to the next one. And the key is to play it slow at the beginning. If you can play it slow, you'll be able to play it fast. It's just a question of time. But break it down into like little modules. That's what you need. Eddie says, I've been playing Eruption wrong for years. I'm trying to finally nail it down. It's cool to be able to play. You know, that is like the homage to Eddie. Everybody should, I mean, if you're playing guitar, you should at least strive to try and, even if it's not the whole thing, part of it. I think it would be like the least we can do for all the great music Eddie gave us throughout the years. Steve says, Toman sells a really nice fine-haired brush for cleaning mixers, keyboards, and guitars. It's cheap but better for the job than a regular brush. Well, you know what? Here, I'm gonna give you a suggestion because it is a good question. Let me just excuse me. I'm gonna just show you something here. One thing that you can do is you can get yourself one of these. If I could find the right one here, I'll show you. Just give me a second. Yeah, you can get this one here. I'll show you. Okay, it's here. I'll share my screen so you can see it. This is an inexpensive option. You can get yourself one of these things. It's basically a brush that you can use to dust off the lens of a camera. They're inexpensive. You can probably get this for a couple of bucks in a place that sells camera equipment. It's just a little brush and it's got a little bulb on it that you can squeeze. It's like a rubber bulb and it blows air through the brush. And it's a great way just to dust off any kind of dust particles without necessarily having to put any liquids on your pickups or anything like that. You can use something like that, relatively easy to clean the dust off of your pickups. Music and Gear says, Tony, there are companies that make boxes to convert your combos into a head. Yes, you can. But I was answering the question like as if you can get something like a Princeton head, like right out of a store somewhere. No, you would have to convert your amplifier and make it into a head version. Yeah, that's an option, but a lot of people don't want to necessarily like cannibalize they don't want to cannibalize their amps. You know what I mean? Call it the Harvard. Yeah. iGuitar says electric guitars do not have bone, etc. saddles, only the nut. Do you guys change electric guitar nuts, for example, bone, to make it sound better? Yeah, that's a question that comes up a lot. Oftentimes, when you buy higher end guitars, most of the time they'll come with a bone nut or graphite or some other type of nut. Cheaper ones usually have like really inexpensive cheap nuts that are sometimes made of plastic, which are not the best. I generally, if I like the guitar and I intend on keeping the guitar and it comes with a cheap plastic nut, I'll opt for bone. I'll change it myself. But the only time you're actually going to hear a difference, specifically in the nut, is when you're playing the guitar open. In other words, I don't have a guitar here just to show you, but as soon as you fret a string, the nut is out of the equation. You're not getting any sound or influence of sound from the guitar nut because you're stopping the string from vibrating before it gets to the nut when you're hitting it on any of the frets. So the only time you really get the full influence of a bone nut is when you're strumming the strings open. You'll hear it more on an acoustic guitar. You know, the sound will be better. It'll often be brighter, and the string sometimes will vibrate longer when you switch to a bone nut. Alex said, I just scored a used PV Classic 54x10 combo at a thrift store for 65 bucks. Wow, man. That is quite a score. The PV Classics are great as long as there's no issues with it. If it's not working and you got it for 65 bucks, then that could be an issue. But if it's working and you paid 65 bucks, man, sweet. I never get deals like that. Congratulations, dude. That is awesome. Nella says, I made a brass nut from a brass blank back in the 80s. It was a pain to make. Yeah, brass is definitely not an easy material to work with. And if you're trying to, like, you know, score the nut slots and stuff with your existing files, you can also ruin your files. So yeah, it's a bit more of a challenge. That's sweet, man. Congratulations on that, dude. Shall we take a look at the poll question, guys? I think so. I've been yapping for almost 2 hours now, and I think we need to wrap it up soon. So let's jump to the poll question and take a look at that. All right, so is there a few other votes that have come in last minute? Let's see here. I think so. Yeah, we're up to 181 votes. Awesome. So the question was, are you a guitar player or a guitar collector? So I hope you had enough time to think about that. And we have some interesting comments as well I'll share with you. So the 3 possible answers for this questions were: 1, I love playing and could not care less about collecting guitars. The second option was, I clearly am a collector. I own many guitars and suck at playing. And the third option is, I'm in between. I could kind of play and dig owning many guitars. So the number 1 answer is number 3. 61% of you said, I'm in between. I could kind of play and dig owning many guitars. I think I fall into that category too, guys. You know, it's just a lot, like, playing guitar is fun. Playing guitar and fooling around with gear, pedals and other things, you know, amps, and it's even more fun, you know. So I'm kind of in that category. I wouldn't say I'm a straight ahead guitar player in which I could honestly say I only own like 1 guitar and I spend most of my time practicing and playing. I wish I would do that, but I don't. If I would do that, I'd be an overall better guitar player for sure, times 100. But I'm distracted by shiny things, and this is why I have this channel. I'm addicted to gear. So it, you know, it's one of those things, you know, it has its good sides and it has its bad sides, but I'm not alone. 61% of you, you know, fall into that category as well. The second most popular answer is, I love playing and could not care less about collecting guitars. That's, I mean, that's cool. If you can focus on playing guitars and not worry about gear as much. 1 second, guys. Then I think you have the winning combination. I think you definitely have the ability to focus, and overall you're probably gonna be a lot more satisfied with your guitar playing. And then the third most popular answer is, I clearly am a collector. I own many guitars and I suck at playing. 11% of you said that was the category that you fell into. Hey, it still brings you happiness. So there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with becoming a collector and just enjoying what you collect. A lot of people collect a lot of weird things too. You know, little cat figurines or things like that, thimbles, I don't know, weird things, plates. Like, why would you want to do? But there's, you know, there's people that fall into those categories, and I'm not one of them, but I definitely love collecting guitars. So there's something to be said there. And some of the questions, some of the comments people had, for example, somebody says, looks like I'm with the majority. You can always find space for another guitar. The problem is being able to afford new strings for all of them. No, I know what you're saying, man. One guy said neither. I'm a guitar accumulator, not a collector. Collector implies that there's some goal or rationale to my buying. That's a good point. You're right. You're right. Accumulator or hoarder, maybe. Is that another term we can use? I don't know. I don't like to use that term. So Shane says, my lack of cash and my angry wife have cooled my guitar collecting. Don't worry, Shane. It's temporary. Trust me on that. All right, guys. I think we'll end the show with that today. We had a really, I think, a very enjoyable conversation. I hope you guys feel the same way. If you guys, you know, have other suggestions for topics, I'm all ears. Just leave it in the comments. I'm always open and I'm happy to accommodate. So maybe make some suggestions. Maybe next week topic will be one of your suggestions. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope you had a good Sunday here with me on Addicted to Gear. Next week will be show 220. Nice round number. And I'm sure we will still have plenty of stuff to talk about. So please mark it on your calendar. Come on back next week, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You know the channel, you know the time, you know the place. And jump on in for some other great gear chat. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy yourself. Practice that eruption. And we'll talk next week and share some more interesting tips. Have a fantastic week, guys. See you all soon.